What is the best position and strategy for MMA ground fighting? If you'd like to know my take on it, stay tuned and watch this short video. If you want to master MMA fundamentals, check out my instructional called MMA Essential Lessons. In it you can learn about clinch takedowns, boxing, grappling, Muay Thai, ground and pound, Thai and puppet master clinch, escapes from inferior positions, and shooting takedowns. Check out the link in the description below. Hi, my name is Mark Leichner from MMAcoach.net, where we teach coaches, fighters and enthusiasts how to train smart and not just hard. In today's video, we will be exploring two different strategies for fighting on the ground in MMA and what is the best position to deliver ground strikes from. Before we start, I'd like to give a shout out to BJJ Scout, who makes one of the best BJJ and MMA explainer videos online. This video is inspired by his Meta Switch video, which he made a few months ago. It is about Ben Askren's change of ground tactics over the course of his career. BJJ Scout explains how Askren became a lot more efficient and dangerous by employing folk-style meta instead of BJJ meta, which he used in the beginning. Meta refers to the overall strategy or game plan. That means that the new Askren uses techniques and tactics from folk-style wrestling to control and finish opponents better than he did when he relied on BJJ tactics. When Meta Switch video got out, I got very excited because that is almost exactly how my development of ground and pound played out, only earlier. I originally came from judo and have never trained folk-style wrestling, but the overall strategy on the ground was very similar, and I relied on heavy top control with side control being my preferred position. So in this video, we will contrast those two ground tactics, BJJ meta and folk-style meta. We will also contrast mount and back mount, which are considered as the best positions in BJJ, to side control, which I believe is the best position for ground and pound. You will better understand this video if you check out BJJ Scout's Meta Switch video I mentioned. The link is in the description and in the cards. However, I will summarize it here by quickly explaining both styles. BJJ meta or strategy reflect the BJJ's point system. So you go from passing the guard into side control, then to mount where you hit, opponent turns, and you back mount and choke your opponent out with a rear naked choke. That means that the mount and the back mount are the top goal. It is what most people are doing in MMA, and it works. Folk-style meta revolves around heavy hookless top control of a turtled opponent, meaning that the back mount is usually avoided in order to stay on top at all times. The turtled up opponent is controlled and punched in sprawl on hip position, mat returns are utilized if the opponent tries to get up, and side control crucifix is the main goal. There is more to this style than this, like being heavy, using various rides and punching from all top positions, but this is a quick explanation. BJJ meta is a good strategy, but it has some problems. If you don't get the submission, you usually lose the position. Mount and back mount take skill to hold. Submission awareness takes time to develop. And opponents can get up more easily. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it is not effective and that you should not learn it. You definitely should. Askren trains extensively in BJJ, like many other folk-style type ground and pounders, and it helps them a lot. It helped me a lot too. And if you're wondering why BJJ practitioners are actively seeking mount and back mount, the best explanation comes from a world-renowned BJJ coach, John Danaher.
Jiu-Jitsu is a system based around 4 distinct steps. Step number 1 is take your opponent to the ground. What happens when you take a human being to the ground? The closer they get to the ground, the less they can employ explosive force. You put them on the ground, dynamic explosive movement is massively curtailed. It takes away the single riskiest element of fighting, which is quick dynamic movement that can generate kinetic energy. It's inherently safer. Less things can go catastrophically wrong on the ground than in a standing position. What's step number 2? Get past his legs. they're dangerous. If I end up inside your legs, if you're a skilled jiu-jitsu player, you can arm lock me, you can leg lock me, you can strangle me. Even if you were an untrained fighter, you could upkick me.
Right.
Many a man has been knocked out by an upkick. Step number 3 of jiu-jitsu is to work your way through a hierarchy of pins where the pins are graded in value according to your ability to strike with effect on the ground. Step number 4, submissions.
Danaher was explaining BJJ hierarchy of pins in contrast to his system of leg locks, so not connected to folk-style meta ground and pound. But I included it here because I find it is a very valuable explanation. So if knee on belly and mount offer more space for punching the opponent's face, aren't they better than side control? If back mount is BJJ's holy grail and there is not a lot of what the opponent can do to you there, is it not also better than side control? Let's explore this. Knee on belly, as Danaher pointed out, is inherently unstable when you hold it for longer periods of time. I think it should be used in 5 cases. 1. When someone is trying to escape from your side control and is about to regard. Then you preempt his escape with knee on belly, which then opens up other dominant positions, either mount, back takes, or sprawl on hip. 2. When you cannot progress in side control and you need to get your opponent to open up. 3. When your opponent is down and pressed up against the cage, knee on belly can be very difficult to escape. 4. When the mounted opponent tries the elbow escape and you realize that you cannot hold the mount any longer, then you transition to knee on belly and maybe even remount later. 5. After a guard pass, although this is not so common in MMA. So it has its purpose and it is important, but very difficult to hold for long. Mount is a good position and it often leads to the opponent turning to his belly to avoid punches and then being rear naked choked in back mount. This usually happens when the opponent is tired. When he is fresh, it is very difficult to hold a high mount which is best for punching. Mounters often get rolled to their backs and end up with the opponent in their guard, thereby losing top position. And you want top position at all times, even if you employ standard BJJ tactics. Listen to what World BJJ and ADCC champion Robert Drysdale had to say about it.
A lot of times, the grappler that goes in MMA, he's just straight out grappling, right? I think that's a mistake. I think the punches work in the grappler's favor, because if you know how to position yourself, you know how to punch properly, then you're really, now you're a killing machine. It's going to open up for submissions. One thing this dramatically changed my jiu-jitsu game, not only for MMA but for sport jiu-jitsu, was the importance of positioning. I think that's something that a lot of jiu-jitsu neglect. There's this misconception in jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is all about the submission. It's not true. It's not true. Jiu-jitsu is combat. Jiu-jitsu is a martial art, and positioning is extremely important. Don't take my word for it. Watch the UFC. And so in a way, MMA has influenced a lot of my sport jiu-jitsu, because it was a reminder that jiu-jitsu, before it was a sport, it was combat. It was a martial art, and I think a lot of jiu-jitsu practitioners have lost that. They don't want to learn takedowns. They don't care about being on top. In fact, they often fight to be on bottom, which is odd. It's just very jiu-jitsu. Brazilian jiu-jitsu is the only grappling art on the planet where people fight to be on bottom. I personally believe that you should fight to be on top, and the combat aspect is something we shouldn't lose. So I started fighting for top position and knowing how to control top position and stay in top position, not let the person stand back up. That's another concern in jiu-jitsu. You don't have in jiu-jitsu, you have in MMA. It's not just taking your opponent down, but actually making sure he stays down. And that's I think that's something a lot of people neglect. And there's no contradiction between fighting for these things and staying in dominant positions and going from submission to submission to submission. And there's no contradiction with that and being a good sport practitioner. You can do both.
What about the back mount? It often happens that the back mountees reverse the position and end up on top of back mounters, either by turning and escaping back mount completely or by going belly up and still being back mounted. So again, loss of top control. Fights can be finished from there, and they are finished often, but many prefer to stay on top at all times. There are tactics to prevent that. You can see me maintaining a stable base, going from back mount to mount by not allowing belly up. Daniel Cormier sometimes removes one hook completely in order to not get rolled. But what's so special with side control? Can you not get reversed in that position too and end up on your back? Yes, but much harder. You could get bridged over, but that is not so easy to do. Side control is mostly escaped by reguarding, but you still have top position. Another common escape is to try to get the underhook and get up. While people use this all the time, you can circle around and take their backs or get into sprawl on hip. If you don't succeed, the chances are high that you will both end up on your feet, which is better than ending up on your back. In side control, the goal is the crucifix, where it is very difficult to completely reverse the top fighter, although possible. I have a video on how to escape this position, and you can check it out in the cards above or in the description. You do have less space for your punches and elbows to travel, but the entrapment is total and the head is unprotected. And when you're high up in the crucifix, the bridge is useless because the hips are too far. In knee on belly and mount, you can generate more power with strikes, but these positions are more unstable. And back control can be reversed. There are also submissions from side control that perfectly fit in with striking. You stay on top while going for them and you don't compromise the position. If you don't get them, you're still on top. Does this mean that side control is absolutely the best position and folk style meta the best strategy for ground fighting? For many fighters it is, and it was for me as well, but BJJ meta is still a very good strategy employed by many. It is going to come down to how many hours did you practice BJJ or wrestling or judo, what are your affinities, what way of fighting you prefer. MMA styles are not set in stone and we all pick and choose the techniques and strategies for our arsenals. I noticed that many competitors with a wrestling and judo background use folk style meta. I guess it comes naturally to them. There are differences though. Contrast Cain Velasquez and Daniel Cormier for example. Both have a very similar ground and pound style, but Velasquez prefers to strike and never goes for submissions. He openly stated that. Cormier, on the other hand, doesn't limit himself to strikes on the ground only, and includes submissions in his game. I believe that makes him more dangerous. Whatever strategy you prefer, knowing just one position will never be enough. In order for you to be a killer ground fighter, you must have a system in place where you can flow from one position to the other and where you have many solutions for many problems that your opponents can pose. Positions can fail, and they sometimes do, but a system is much more likely to succeed. Here is a part of my sparring footage from 2008, which is the year I retired from pro fighting. As you can see, I sometimes lose the position, but the system is in place and I get it back or flow into another dominant position. I'm not saying that systems cannot fail. They absolutely can and they do, but you are more likely to succeed with a good system in place. If you're interested in learning how to ground and pound like a pro, I have an instructional that will teach you just that. Being over 9 hours long, it is the most comprehensive ground and pound instructional in the world. Check out the link in the description or in the cards to find out more. What type of ground and pound strategy do you use and why? What is your favorite position for ground and pound? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, hit the like button, share it, and you can also subscribe to my channel. And if you'd like a more in-depth MMA training, check out my instructionals. My name is Mark Leichner from MMAcoach.net, and I will see you again very soon.